Don't you dare threaten me! Do not! Will you kill me like you killed Nala's father?
Mrs. Kang's voice cracked as she screamed, the alcohol making her words slightly slurred but no less venomous. She grabbed another wine bottle from the table, drinking directly from it, her hands trembling. You stupid, pathetic little girl. Do you have any idea who you're threatening? Yoonji stood near the door, her pink designer dress wrinkled and stained with tears, her face a mess of running mascara and smudged makeup. But her eyes, those large doe eyes that usually appeared so innocent and helpless, blazed with something dark and calculating. She'd spent the entire night crying, begging, breaking down. She was done crying. Will you kill me like you killed Nayla's father? The words came out quiet, deadly, each syllable dropping into the silence like stones into still water, creating ripples that would become waves. Mrs. Kang froze mid-drink, the bottle halfway to her lips. Her face, already flushed from alcohol, went completely white. For a moment, she looked like she might collapse. Then the color rushed back in a violent flood of red. What did you just say to me? Yoonji took a step forward, her heels clicking on the broken glass. She didn't care anymore. About the mess. About anything except the fact that she'd lost everything. Her fake pregnancy exposed, Minho's disgust, her humiliation, and she refused to lose alone. You heard me, Yoonji said, her voice growing stronger. I said, will you kill me like you killed Nala's father? James Thompson? Mrs. Kang slammed the wine bottle down so hard it cracked. You need to leave before you say something you'll regret. I'm not leaving. Yoonji's voice rose to match Mrs. Kang's, all pretense of the sweet, compliant girl completely shattered. And I'm not going to regret anything because I have nothing left to lose. She moved closer, her small frame somehow seeming larger in her fury. I can't lose on all ends, Mrs. Kang. I just can't. And you're going to help me. Mrs. Kang laughed, a harsh, broken sound that held no humor. I wouldn't have needed a scheme if you'd helped me keep him away from that African girl in the first place. Yoonji shot back. That was your job. You promised me you'd handle it. You promised me he'd never look at her again. And now look, he's probably with her right now, and I'll be the laughingstock of Seoul. And whose fault is that? Mrs. Kang's voice dripped with contempt as she circled the coffee table, glass crunching under her expensive heels. Mine? I gave you everything. You couldn't even fake a pregnancy properly. He dragged me to the hospital like a criminal and, because you're a fool, Mrs. Kang interrupted coldly, picking up her wine glass with a shaking hand. She drained the wine in one long swallow, then fixed Yoonjae with red-rimmed eyes that held no sympathy, only disgust. So no, she continued, her words slightly slurred but cutting. No, I will not help you. Get Minho back. I will not help you with anything. In fact, I suggest you start getting used to being a laughingstock now. Because trust me, the humiliation hasn't even started yet. The sooner you accept your new reality, the better. Right now, my son hates me. The words hit Yoonjae like physical blows. She actually stumbled backward, her hand reaching for the wall to steady herself. Mrs. Kang's cruel smile widened as she watched the younger woman process the rejection. She poured herself more wine, the bottle clinking against the glass. You should leave Seoul, Mrs. Kang continued conversationally, as if discussing the weather. Change your name, maybe go to Busan, or better yet, leave Korea entirely. Because once the media gets hold of this story, and they will, your life here is over. The fake pregnancy, the hospital scene, Minho's rejection, it's all too delicious not to spread. She took another drink, her eyes never leaving Yoonjae's devastated face. The country club will revoke your membership. Your so-called friends will stop returning your calls. Your family will be humiliated by association, and everyone will laugh at the pathetic girl who thought she could trap a Kang with a fake baby. Yoonjae's face had gone completely white. Her hands were shaking. For a moment, she looked like she might actually collapse. Then something shifted in her expression. Her hands stopped shaking. Her spine straightened. And when she looked up at Mrs. Kang, her eyes held something that made even the older woman take a small step back. "No," Yoonjae said quietly. Mrs. Kang blinked. "Excuse me?" "I said no." Yoonjae's voice grew stronger with each word. "No, I won't run. No, I won't hide. And no, I won't let you throw me away like garbage just because your plan failed." "My plan?" Mrs. Kang laughed incredulously. "This was your pathetic scheme about the pregnancy without thinking. I would have come up with something better. Your plan to keep Nala away from Minho," Yoonjae interrupted, her voice hardening. "Your plan to make sure he never left me. Your plan to protect your precious family reputation. I was just the tool you used. And now that the tool broke, you want to discard me." She took a step forward, and Mrs. Kang actually backed up. "But here's the thing, Mrs. Kang," Yoonji continued, her voice dropping to something cold and dangerous that didn't match her delicate appearance at all. "I don't lose. I have never lost at anything in my entire life, except Minho, just because of her. And I'm not about to start now." "You've already lost," Mrs. Kang said, but there was uncertainty creeping into her voice now. "Minho is done with you. You have nothing. I have information," Yoonji cut her off. "Very valuable information. About you. About what you did. About James Thompson." Mrs. Kang's hand trembled as she set down her wine glass. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "If you think you can blackmail me, it's not blackmail," Yoonji interrupted sweetly, her voice returning to that innocent girl tone that didn't match the steel in her eyes at all. "It's a partnership, mutual protection. You help me get Minho back, and I help keep your secrets safe. We both win. And if I refuse," Yoonjae's smile widened, "then we both lose. Simple as that. If I'm going down as a laughingstock, if my life is being destroyed, then I'll make absolutely sure that I take you down with me. I'll go to the police, I'll go to the media. I'll tell them everything I know." She tilted her head, studying Mrs. Kang's pale face with satisfaction. "So what will it be?" Yoonjae asked pleasantly. "Do we work together to fix this mess, or do we both go down in flames?" Mrs. Kang stared at her for a long moment. Then her face twisted with rage. "You ungrateful little bitch," she hissed, her cultured facade completely crumbling. "I took you in. I made you part of this family. I gave you everything. You used me," Yoonji corrected coldly. "And because he hates you and sees you for who you are, you want to dump me? You are helping me get back my Minho." "I should have let Minho marry that African whore," Mrs. Kang spat, her racism and fury boiling over together. "At least she had some dignity. You're nothing but a scheming little gold digger who learned from the best," Yoonjae finished. "I learned every manipulation, every scheme, every dirty trick from watching you, Mrs. Kang. You taught me well. Maybe too well." Mrs. Kang's face had gone purple with rage. Her hands were clenched into fists at her sides. For a moment, she looked like she might actually strike Yoonji. "Get out!" Mrs. Kang screamed, her voice cracking. "Get out of my house!" "I will never help you with anything," Mrs. Kang shrieked. "You're a parasite, a leech. You're the reason—" She stopped abruptly, her hand flying to her mouth. But it was too late. The words were already forming, already clawing their way up her throat, loosened by alcohol and rage and the need to hurt this girl who dared threaten her. "You're the reason I killed Nala's father." The confession exploded from Mrs. Kang's mouth before she could stop it. "If you hadn't been so weak, if you hadn't needed so much help controlling Minho, I would never have needed to—" She froze, her eyes going wide as she realized what she just said. The silence that followed was absolute. Yoonji stood completely still, her eyes wide, her mouth slightly open. For a moment, she looked genuinely shocked. Then slowly, a smile spread across her face. Not a nice smile, a triumphant one. "Well," Yoonji said softly, "that's interesting." Mrs. Kang's face had drained of all color. She looked like she might actually faint. "That's not what I meant. I was just angry. You just confessed to murder," Yoonji said, her voice filled with wonder and satisfaction. "You just actually confessed, out loud, to killing James Thompson." No. Mrs. Kang's voice rose in panic. No, I was drunk. I was angry. I didn't mean... Oh, you meant it, Yoonji interrupted, pulling her phone from her purse. And just to make sure there's no confusion, she held up the phone, the screen showing a recording app that had been running the entire time. Mrs. Kang's face went from white to gray. You recorded me? Every word, Yoonji confirmed, her smile growing. Hold on, she recorded everything? New here? Subscribe because you do not want to miss what happens next. This is what I mean. Karma always comes back around. See how fast they turned on each other? The wicked have no peace. What time are you watching this? Drop it below. Now back to the story. Let's see how the wicked pay for their sins. She tapped the screen, and Mrs. Kang's slurred voice filled the room. You're the reason I killed Nala's father. Mrs. Kang lunged for the phone, but Yoonjae danced back easily. She said mockingly. This stays with me, my insurance policy. You can't. I was drunk. It would never hold up. Maybe not, Yoonjae agreed, but it would definitely hold up in the media. She pocketed the phone, then straightened her wrinkled pink dress with exaggerated care. So here's what's going to happen, Yoonji said, her voice taking on a businesslike tone. You're going to help me get Minho back. You're going to use every resource at your disposal to separate him from Nala and make sure he comes back to me. And if you don't, she patted her purse where the phone now rested. If you don't, this recording goes to the police, the media, and anyone else who'll listen. And we both know how that story ends. We both go down and become laughingstock. Mrs. Kang stood frozen, her face a mask of horror and rage and something that might have been fear. She opened the apartment door, then paused. Oh, and Mrs. Kang? Yoonja's voice had dropped all pretense of sweetness now. Don't try to emotionally blackmail me by saying you killed him because of me. We both know you killed James Thompson for your own selfish interests, to protect your family name, to control your son, to maintain your perfect little world. Her eyes were hard as diamonds. She walked out, her heels clicking on the marble hallway floor, leaving Mrs. Kang standing alone in her destroyed apartment, surrounded by broken glass and empty wine bottles and the shattered remains of her carefully constructed life. For a long moment, Mrs. Kang didn't move. She just stood there, staring at the open door, her mind racing. Then, slowly, she walked to the bar and picked up her phone. Her hands were steady now. The alcohol-induced trembling had stopped. When she scrolled through her contacts and found the number she needed, her finger didn't hesitate. The phone rang twice before a man's voice answered. Deep, rough, professional. Mrs. Kang, you have one more problem to solve for me, Mrs. Kang said, her voice completely calm now, cold. The voice of a woman who'd already killed once and wouldn't hesitate to kill again. Name and location? Song Yoonjae, 24 years old. She's driving a white BMW, license plate 47J389. She'll probably go home. Apartment complex at Gangnam District, Tower Palace 3. If not there, try the Four Seasons or the Shilla. She likes expensive hotels. Understood. Permanent solution? Mrs. Kang closed her eyes, opened them. Yes, it will be done tonight. The line went dead. Mrs. Kang set down the phone and reached for the wine bottle with shaking hands. She poured herself a glass, drained it in one long swallow, then poured another. Minho stood barely 2 feet from Nala, his long blue hair falling around both their faces like a curtain, blocking out the world. Their foreheads were still pressed together from the kiss that had just shattered and remade everything between them. His pale hands rested on her tiny waist over that cream silk dress that had tormented him. Her dark hands gripped his disheveled white shirt, holding him close even as everything was about to fall apart. Because he could feel it, the moment approaching like a storm. The confession that would destroy them or save them, and he didn't know which. There's something you need to know. His voice came out rough, barely above a whisper. His eyes were closed because he couldn't bear to see her face when he said it. Couldn't bear to watch her expression change from love to hate. Nala's hands tightened in his shirt. What is it? God, even her voice was gentle, trusting, like she thought this would be something manageable, something they could work through together. She had no idea. Minho took a shaky breath, his hands trembling where they held her waist. I don't know how to tell you this. Just say it. Her forehead pressed harder against his, as if she could hold them together through proximity alone. Whatever it is, we'll deal with it, together. The word together almost broke him, because after this, there would be no together. There would only be Nala's justified hatred and his deserved loneliness. I know it will destroy us, he continued, his voice cracking. I know you'll hate me even more than you already do, but you deserve the truth. Nala pulled back slightly, just enough to look at his face. Minho, you're scaring me. Her hand came up to cup his face, her thumb brushing his cheekbone. What else could possibly go wrong? We've already been through hell. What else is there? Everything, he thought. Everything that matters. I don't care if what I'm about to tell you makes you hate me even more, he said, the words coming faster now, desperate to get them out before he lost his nerve. I don't care if you never want to see me again after tonight. I don't care if you tell me to leave and never come back. But I need you to know. His voice broke. He swallowed hard, forcing himself to continue. I need you to know that you're all that matters to me. You're all that's ever mattered. And if I could turn things around, if I could change what happened, I would give anything. My company, my name, my life, anything to make it different. Tears were streaming down his face now. He didn't bother to wipe them away. But I can't change it, he whispered. I can't fix it. I can only tell you the truth and pray that somehow, some way, you don't hate me as much as I hate myself. Nala's face had gone very still. Her hand remained on his cheek, but he could feel her starting to withdraw emotionally even as she stayed physically close. Okay, she said quietly. Tell me. But before he could speak, she continued, her voice taking on that fierce determination he loved so much. But first, I need you to understand something. Her other hand came up to cup his other cheek, forcing him to look directly at her. We have time to change the future if we stop dwelling in the past. Whatever happened, whatever you need to tell me, it's done. It's over. What matters is what we do now. Hope flickered in Minho's chest, fragile as a candle flame in a storm. And I swear to you, I will find out who exactly killed my father. I'll get justice. I'll make sure whoever did it pays. But I refuse to let the past destroy me before we even have a chance. She stopped abruptly. Minho had flinched. Just slightly. Just a tiny movement when she mentioned finding out who killed her father. But in that moment, with their faces inches apart and her hands on his cheeks, she felt it, saw it. The guilt that flashed across his face before he could hide it. Her eyes widened, her hands stilled on his face. Wait. The word came out barely a whisper. Minho closed his eyes, his jaw clenching. No, not like this. Not her figuring it out before he could explain. You already know. The words fell into the space between them like stones into water, creating ripples that would become waves, that would become a tsunami. Minho's eyes opened. He didn't try to deny it. What was the point? Yes. That single word hung in the air between them. Nala's hands dropped from his face. She took a step back, then another, putting distance between them. The porch suddenly felt too small, the light too bright, the air too thin. You already know who killed my father, she repeated, her voice rising slightly. Not a question this time, a statement, an accusation. This whole time, you've known, and you didn't tell me. Nala? Who? The word exploded from her mouth. Who killed him? Was it you? Did you? No. Minho stepped toward her, his hands raised. God, no, Nala. I could never, especially not. Then who? She was backing away from him now, her eyes wide with shock. Minho took the deepest breath of his life. My mother. he said, each word cutting his throat like glass. I'm not certain, but I know she had a hand in your father's death. The silence that followed was deafening. Nala didn't move, didn't speak. She just stood there, gripping the railing, staring at him with an expression he couldn't read. Shock, rage, grief, all of it, none of it, everything. Your mother, she finally said, her voice completely flat, emotionless, which was somehow worse than if she'd been screaming. Mrs. Kang, the woman who told me I wasn't good enough for her son because of the color of my skin. The woman who said my father was nobody. The woman who... Her voice broke. She pressed a hand to her mouth, her whole body starting to shake. She killed him, Nala continued through her fingers. She killed my father, the only family I had, the man who raised me alone after my mother died, the man who worked 3 jobs to put me through university, the man who... A sob tore from her throat, then another. Then she was crying in earnest, deep wrenching sobs that shook her entire body, her hands still pressed to her mouth as if she could physically hold the grief inside. Minho moved toward her instinctively, his arms reaching for her. Nala, I'm so sorry. Don't touch me. She jerked away from him so violently she almost fell over the railing. Don't you dare touch me right now. He froze, his hands dropping to his sides. I understand. Do you? She laughed, but it was a horrible sound, broken and jagged. Do you understand what it's like to finally know who murdered your father? I don't deserve you, Minho said quietly. I never did. Not after what my family took from you. I'm sorry, he whispered again. And I understand if you don't want anything to do with me again. If you want me to leave. If you want to pretend you never saw me tonight. I understand. He lowered his hands, forcing himself to look at her, to memorize her face. Because this might be the last time he ever saw it. I'll leave, he said quietly. I'll never bother you again. You won't have to see me, or deal with my family, or carry the burden of what we did to you. You can move on. Find someone whose mother isn't a murderer. Someone who deserves you. He took a step toward the porch stairs, then another. Each step felt like walking through broken glass. His voice broke completely. I hope you find happiness. Real happiness. The kind of happiness I could never give you because of who I am and where I come from. He'd reached the top step now. 3 small steps separated the porch from the walkway. 3 steps between staying and leaving. Between fighting and surrendering. Between love and loss. He put his foot on the first step. Don't leave. The words were so quiet, he almost didn't hear them. He froze mid-step, his foot hovering over the second stair, afraid to turn around because he might have imagined it. What? I said don't leave. Nala's voice was stronger now, still rough with tears, but clear. Don't you dare leave. Minho turned slowly, hardly daring to breathe. Nala was still gripping the porch railing, her face streaked with tears, her cream dress rumpled from their earlier embrace. But her eyes, those beautiful brown eyes that had looked at him with so much love just minutes ago, held something complex now. Pain, yes. Anger, absolutely. But also, understanding. My whole life, Nala said quietly, I've had to struggle for everything. Every opportunity, every achievement, every bit of respect. You know why? Minho shook his head, not trusting his voice. Because people looked at my skin and decided who I was before I ever opened my mouth. She continued, her hands tightening on the railing. They looked at my father's maintenance uniform and decided we were nobody. They looked at our small house and our old car and decided we didn't matter. A tear rolled down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. So I learned very young what it's like to be blamed for things you didn't do, she said. To be held guilty for crimes you didn't commit, to carry the burden of other people's sins just because of where you came from or who you're related to. She took a step toward him, then another. Your mother killed my father, Nala said, and the words still cut like knives. That's true. That's real. That's something we can never change. She was directly in front of him now, close enough to touch, but not touching. Just looking at him with those eyes that held more pain than anyone should ever have to carry. But you didn't kill him, she said firmly. You're not responsible for her crimes any more than I'm responsible for whatever stereotypes people project onto me. She reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away if he wanted. When he didn't, her hand cupped his cheek, her dark fingers gentle against his pale skin. I understand more than anyone what it's like to be judged for where you come from, she said softly. And I refuse to do that to you. I won't blame you for her sins. I won't hold you responsible for her choices. I won't make you carry guilt that isn't yours to carry. Nala, his voice broke completely. But most importantly, Nala whispered, I don't want to stay alone tonight. I don't want to process this by myself. I don't want to lie in my father's house, remembering that he's gone, while wondering what could have been. Her other hand came up to frame his face, both her hands holding him like he was something precious that might break. Please stay with me. I want... She didn't get to finish. Minho surged forward with a broken sound that was half sob, half prayer, his hands coming up to frame her face as he kissed her like he was drowning and she was air. It wasn't like the first kiss on the porch steps. That had been desperate and passionate and full of uncertain hope. This kiss was different. This kiss was love in its rawest, most honest form. Nala kissed him back just as fiercely, her hands tangling in his blue hair, pulling him closer as if she could press all her understanding and forgiveness directly into his soul through contact alone. Her tears mixed with his, her breath mixed with his, her pain mixed with his until neither could tell where one ended and the other began. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Minho rested his forehead against hers and whispered, I love you. I know, Nala whispered back. I've always known. I don't deserve you. That's not your decision to make. Her lips curved into the smallest smile. I get to decide what I deserve. And right now, I deserve to be with someone who loves me enough to tell me the truth even when it destroys him. Someone who would give up everything to protect me. Someone who... Minho kissed her again, unable to wait, unable to hold back, unable to do anything except pour everything he felt into the contact between their lips. And this time, when they broke apart, Nala took his hand and led him toward the front door. The door to James Thompson's house swung open under Nala's hand. She led Minho inside without letting go of his hand, as if afraid that breaking contact might break the fragile peace they'd just found. The house was dark, silent, every room heavy with memories of a man who would never come home again. But tonight, those memories wouldn't be just about loss. Tonight, they'd be about healing, about love, about two broken people finding a way forward together. They stopped in the middle of the living room, still holding hands, just looking at each other. Minho's hands found the zipper of her cream silk dress, his fingers trembling slightly as he slowly pulled it down. The sound seemed impossibly loud in the quiet house. Nala. Her name was a prayer on his lips. Shh. She kissed him again, softer this time. No more talking, no more thinking. Just feel. The dress pooled at her feet like a cream cloud. Minho's breath caught at the sight of her. Radiant dark skin, curves that he dreamed about, eyes that held the world. You're so beautiful, he whispered. They moved together, hands exploring, lips meeting, bodies remembering what they'd tried so hard to forget. Every touch was deliberate. Every kiss was intentional. Every moment was chosen. They sank onto the couch together, the same couch where Nala had sat with her father countless times. But tonight, it would hold new memories, better memories, healing memories. Their love-making was slow, gentle, full of whispered words and soft touches and the kind of intimacy that comes from truly seeing another person, all their flaws and pain and broken pieces, and choosing to love them anyway. I love you, Minho breathed against her neck, his hands mapping the planes of her body like he was memorizing her. When they finally came together, it felt like coming home, like pieces fitting together that had been apart too long, like healing and hope and everything good that could exist between two imperfect people trying their best. And when it was over, when they lay tangled together on that small couch, both breathing hard, both covered in a light sheen of sweat, Nala rested her head on Minho's bare chest and listened to his heartbeat. "I want to make things right with you," Minho said quietly, his fingers tracing patterns on her shoulder. After a while, Nala spoke again. "I feel lighter." "Lighter?" "Knowing who killed my father." She tilted her head up to look at him. "There's something else I need to understand." "What?" "Ji-hoon." She felt Minho's body tense beneath her. "What does he really want from me?" Minho's jaw clenched, especially after I found those texts on his phone. "You what?" Minho sat up so fast he nearly knocked her off the couch. "When did you—" "At his apartment," Nala admitted. "After the restaurant disaster, he offered me his guest room. I accepted because I wanted to investigate him. And I found texts on his office phone coordinating the entire media ambush." Minho stared at her, his expression cycling between impressed, concerned, and something that looked suspiciously like jealousy. "You went to his apartment?" His voice had taken on a slightly dangerous edge. "Alone? At night?" "I had to," Nala said reasonably. "I knew something was off. I needed proof." "You could have been hurt," Minho growled. "He could have, but he didn't." Nala put a hand on his chest, pushing him gently back against the couch. "I was careful. I found what I needed and left. After going to dinner with him, while looking..." Minho's eyes raked over her, taking in every inch of exposed skin. "Absolutely devastating in that dress." Nala's lips curved into a smile. "Are you jealous?" "Who wouldn't be?" Minho pulled her back against him, his hands possessive on her waist. "You wore that dress, that sexy, curve-hugging, everything on display dress, and went to dinner with another man. Of course I'm jealous." They lay there for a moment, just holding each other, before Minho spoke again, his voice serious. "I don't want you near Ji-hoon again," he said. "Whatever he's planning, whatever he wants, it's nothing good. Promise me that you'll stay away from him." "I can't promise that." Minho pulled back to look at her. "What? Why not?" Nala's eyes gleamed with something calculating, strategic. "Because I have a plan." "Nala, he's manipulative, yes. He orchestrated that media circus." She sat up properly now, her mind clearly working through possibilities. "So I'm going to use that," she continued. "I'm going to use his own army against him. Let him think he's won. Let him think I'm falling for his charm and his protection and his promises. And then I'll play his games along with him." Yoonjae's hands were shaking on the steering wheel as she pulled into her apartment complex parking garage. The adrenaline from her confrontation with Mrs. Kang was finally wearing off, leaving her feeling hollow and terrified and exhilarated all at once. The parking garage was nearly empty at this hour. Just a few cars scattered across the concrete, shadows pooling between the harsh fluorescent lights. Yoonji pulled into her assigned spot and put the car in park, but didn't turn off the engine. Something felt wrong. She couldn't explain it. Some instinct was screaming at her to pay attention. Her eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, and there, standing about 10 feet behind her car, was a figure. Tall, broad, male, wearing dark clothes that blended into the shadows, watching her. Yoonjae's blood went cold. Her hand immediately reached into her purse, closing around the small knife she kept there. And right now, it might be the only thing between her and death. She sat perfectly still in the car, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The figure didn't move, just stood there, waiting. For what? For her to get out? For her to run? For her to make the first move? Yoonjae's mind raced. Her apartment building was just across the parking lot, maybe 100 feet from where she was parked. If she ran, could she make it? Should she just drive away? But where would she go? No. Running would just delay the inevitable. Mrs. Kang knew where she lived, where she worked, where she went. If this man didn't get her tonight, another one would get her tomorrow. Better to face it now. On her terms. Yoonjae took a deep breath, tightening her grip on the knife. Then, moving slowly and deliberately, she turned off the engine and opened the car door. The sound echoed through the parking garage like a gunshot. She stepped out, her heels clicking on the concrete, her pink dress rumpled and stained. She kept the knife hidden in her purse, her hand wrapped around the handle, ready. The figure still didn't move. Yoonjae closed the car door and started walking toward her building. Her spine straight, her pace measured. She didn't look back, didn't acknowledge the man she knew was watching her. Just walked like she didn't see him, like she wasn't afraid, even though she was terrified. She made it 10 feet, 20, 30. The attack came at 40 feet, a huge arm wrapped around her neck from behind, cutting off her air. A hand clamped over her mouth, muffling her scream. She was yanked backward against a body that felt like a wall, solid, immovable, professional. "Don't struggle," a deep voice growled in her ear. "This will be easier if you don't struggle." Like hell. Yoonjae's hand flew out of her purse, the knife gleaming in the fluorescent light. She didn't hesitate, didn't think, just acted on pure survival instinct. She drove the blade into the man's thigh with all her strength. Once, twice. The man's grip loosened with a grunt of pain. Yoonjae twisted free, gasping for air, and saw him stumbling backward, clutching his bleeding leg. She could run now. Should run. She reached her car, yanked open the door, threw herself inside, and locked the doors in one smooth motion born of pure terror. Her hands shook so badly, it took 3 tries to get the key in the ignition. The engine roared to life. In her mirror, she saw the man limping toward her, one hand pressed to his bleeding thigh, his face twisted with rage. Yoonjae slammed the car into reverse, not caring about anything except getting away. The tires squealed. The man had to jump aside to avoid being hit. And then she was out of the parking garage, onto the street, driving too fast through Seoul's late-night traffic with a stolen phone clutched in her lap and blood, his blood, on her hands. She drove for 20 minutes before her hands stopped shaking enough to think clearly. Then she pulled into the parking lot of a mid-range hotel. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would ask too many questions about a woman checking in at 2 a.m. with no luggage and ruined makeup. The clerk barely looked at her as she paid in cash and gave a fake name. The room was small, basic. A bed, a bathroom, a TV that probably didn't work, but it was safe, anonymous. A place to breathe for a moment before figuring out what came next. Yoonjae locked the door, threw the deadbolt, and put the chain on for good measure. Then she collapsed onto the bed, still clutching the stolen phone, and finally let herself shake. Then the phone rang once, twice. On the third ring, Mrs. Kang's voice answered, sharp and expectant. "Is it done?" Yoonjae's breath caught, so cold, so casual, as if ordering someone's death was no different than ordering dinner. "Well?" Mrs. Kang's voice grew impatient. "Has Yoonjae been silenced?" For a moment, Yoonjae couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't process the casual evil in that question. Then she found her voice. "Hello, Mrs. Kang." The silence on the other end was absolute. Yoonjae could picture it perfectly. Mrs. Kang's face going white, her hand trembling, the phone nearly slipping from her grasp as she realized what had happened. "Surprised to hear from me?" Yoonjae continued, her voice eerily calm. "I imagine you were expecting someone else. Someone who would confirm that your little problem had been taken care of." A crash on the other end suggested Mrs. Kang had thrown or dropped the phone. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows of James Thompson's small house, turning everything golden and warm. Nala woke slowly, blinking against the brightness, her body deliciously sore in all the right ways. The cool morning air raised goosebumps on her bare skin. She grabbed the duvet and wrapped it around her body like a cocoon, then padded quietly to the window. She picked up her phone from where she'd left it on the windowsill last night and scrolled through her contacts until she found his number. Her finger hovered over the call button for just a moment. Then she pressed it. The phone rang twice before Ji-hoon's voice answered, smooth and pleased even this early in the morning. Nala, this is a pleasant surprise. Hi, Ji-hoon? Nala kept her voice soft, slightly uncertain, exactly the tone of a woman who was confused and vulnerable and might be persuaded. I hope I'm not calling too early. Not at all. I'm always happy to hear from you. She could hear the smile in his voice. Especially how you left yesterday. I thought I did something wrong. Nala took a breath, making it sound shaky. I wanted to apologize for how I left last night, the way I just ran out of your apartment. It was so sudden and rude, and you'd gone to all that trouble to arrange such a nice dinner. You don't need to apologize, Ji-hoon interrupted gently. It was an overwhelming situation. I completely understand. Still, I feel terrible about it. Nala wrapped the duvet tighter around herself, channeling nervous energy into her voice. I was wondering if maybe I could make it up to you? We could have breakfast together? The pause on the other end was brief but telling. When Ji-hoon spoke again, his voice was warm with satisfaction. I would love that. In fact, he paused deliberately. I know just the perfect spot, just the two of us. Nala almost smiled at how predictable he was. And maybe? Ji-hoon's voice dropped to something more intimate. Maybe you could spend the night. We could take our time, really get to know each other without any pressure. There it was, the real agenda. Nala let a small, nervous laugh escape. I think we should see how breakfast goes first, don't you? Of course, of course. Ji-hoon recovered smoothly. No pressure at all, just an open invitation. I appreciate that. Nala injected warmth into her voice. But I would like somewhere private. Can you send me the location? Absolutely. I'll text it to you right now. The eagerness in his voice was almost pathetic. What time should I expect you? How about 10? Perfect. I'll see you then, Nala. I'm really looking forward to this. Me too. Nala lied smoothly. See you soon. She hung up before he could say anything else. Almost immediately, her phone buzzed with a text. Ji-hoon had sent his address, a luxury high-rise in Gangnam. Who were you talking to? The voice made her jump. She turned to find Minho sitting up on the couch. His blue hair disheveled, his eyes alert despite having just woken up. He was watching her with an expression that was part curiosity, part concern, and part something that looked suspiciously like jealousy. Ji-hoon, Nala said simply. Minho's face darkened immediately. Why? Because... Nala moved away from the window, the duvet trailing behind her like a train as she crossed to where Minho sat. I'm setting a trap for him. She knelt down in front of him, the duvet pooling around her, and met his eyes directly. I'm going to use his own tools against him. Nala's expression shifted then, growing more serious, more weighted. When she spoke again, her voice was quiet but implacable. And your mother? The question hung between them like a sword. Minho's smile faded. He knew what she was asking, what she needed to know. Nala's eyes never left his face. Is she going to go scot-free after killing my father? My Seoul Stories lovers. She asked the question we've all been waiting for. Is Mrs. Kang going to pay for murder? And the answer? You'll find out in the finale. Part 11 is the end, and it's going to be explosive. Justice or escape. Minho's impossible choice. Yoonjae's final card, and a confrontation that will leave you shook. Are you ready? Like this video if you're emotionally prepared for the finale, and subscribe with notifications on, because when the finale drops, you need to be first to see how this ends. Okay, but can we talk about Nala and Minho finally coming together after all that pain? After the tears, the confession, the forgiveness, they chose love. They chose each other. And that moment on the couch? Chef's kiss. The way he looked at her? The way she chose him despite everything? The I love you during their most vulnerable moment? Who else was blushing through that entire scene? Because I was not ready for that level of intimacy and tenderness. Drop a heart emoji if you loved their reunion as much as I did. Comment "I'm ready" if you want part 11 now.